Hello, everyone. Hi, it's Naomi Wolf of Outspoken and Daily Clout. It's a big day today, big news, and I have a big message for you. Bottom line, as I'm sure you have heard, unless you are living detached from all news and social media, we had a primary here in New York City. I'm in Brooklyn. The primary is all five boroughs. And uh, big media hullabaloo with no links to any evidence that there was a Democratic Socialists of America sweep of the primary in New York. And two or three candidates who are kind of new stars in the Democratic Socialists of America sort of model of new stars, the Mamdani model, sort of telegenic, Palestine-friendly young people without deep administrative or entrepreneurial or organizational or educational backgrounds, who've never built anything, many of whom have only recently come to the United States, some of whom are dual nationals, like our mayor, who is still a Ugandan citizen. Uganda has one of the worst human rights records and practices in the entire world. Mamdani hasn't stayed home to fight their horrific persecution of gay people, for instance, or women. But these DSA candidates are being kind of produced and moved down a pipeline, and huge amounts of dark money are backing them. A lot, millions from CARE, the Committee on Arab American Islamic Relations, and millions also from Soros-funded entities such as the Tides Foundation. When I was on the left, the Tides Foundation was kind of the umbrella funder of all of our things, really, and we never gave it a second thought. But it is Soros money, and a huge amount of influence from overseas. So what do they have in common? As you may not know, if you're not on X or reading independent media, they really do share a contempt for the United States. They've said so. And certainly tremendous hostility toward Israel, which can bleed over into hostility toward Jews. I'm not saying Israel isn't worthy of criticism, just like any nation. Qatar, Lebanon, Syria, right? Saudi Arabia are worthy of criticism. But this bleeds over into practices like Zoran Mamdani's wife, Rama Douaji, who also appeared out of nowhere, telegenic, mysterious background, educated in Saudi Arabia, somehow became a famous artist somehow overnight, wears $600 designer shoes somehow, though she made about $8,000 in her own income in her most recent tax statement. She reposted posts cheering October 7th and casting doubt on the testimonies or the evidence that some of the hostages taken from southern Israel on October 7th were raped or sexually assaulted. And these women have been testifying. There's documentary evidence, there's forensic evidence. There's no question that they were raped and sexually assaulted. So that's pretty gross. Hassan Piker, a friend of theirs, celebrates 9/11. One of the candidates is alleged to have said, "I couldn't find a napkin, so I wiped my hand on the American flag." Others have stated that they oppose Western civilization, American civilization. They're not shy. It's a platform. It's an ideology. And Brian O'Shea, my husband, who's also a very skilled investigator, has been going barely undercover, I would say, just like minimally undercover, to DSA meetings, including online meetings and in-person meetings. And he's unveiled or revealed an incredibly developed Marxist system that is kind of, I see the appeal. I see why it's captivating so many young adults in America. They have nonstop events. You immediately, Loki always wants to sit on my lap during podcasts, so you're going to get a little Loki. They immediately, have a role for everyone. They have social events, people who can't make friends easily in, big, ugly, capitalist, America as they see it, immediately have a community. They have tasks, they have an organization, and they have a mission, and they have promises. And they're the same promises that communists have been producing in Soviet Russia and in Mao's China, for 110 years almost of, free childcare, free buses, free grocery stores, and many, many young people who are already, if they're, educated upper middle class kids, they've already been indoctrinated by a socialist / communist education ideologically in college. And I've seen some of what kids are learning at Ivy League universities and private colleges, and it's absolutely shocking. I mean, nothing but hostility toward American history, Western history. Everything is settler colonialism this, settler colonialism that, even when it doesn't apply, like California, which, was never colonized by the United States, right? It was colonized by Spain, but not the United States. And hostility toward white people, racial divisiveness. I used to think these were all imaginary, crazy right-wing talking points, but I've actually seen the curricula for myself. I've engaged with these ideas in debates with young people in their 20s, especially early 30s, educated in these worlds. And it's really, really real. Huge hatred toward Israel and Jews as the source of, all evil in the world, all exploitation, all division, huge glamorization of the Palestinian cause, not the Palestinian cause I grew up being supportive of, which is a peaceful two-state solution, living in peace side by side with the state of Israel, building bridges, creating common bonds, but a from the river to the sea eradication ideology in which Israel no longer exists. And the 3 million people, including 20% of whom are Arab Israelis, who live in Israel, are somehow done away with. That's their ideology, and it's paramount. And also, as I've written in many essays, there's a convergence among this young wave of candidates and baby socialists in the DSA, merging fundamental Islam with radical communism, which you would think, if you know anything about history, that's crazy, that'll never work. They're diametrically opposed to each other. One is fundamentalist religiosity, based on sort of 8th century, 7th century social norms, desert tribal norms about women and behavior. And I'm not talking about the average Muslim, whom I adore, right? I have many Muslim friends. I love many people in many Muslim countries. The Holy Quran is beautiful in many ways. I'm talking about the fundamentalist wing of the party, right, of the religion, which is not just a religion. It's a political movement. It's a subversive movement. Its stated goal is to dominate politically the West. And, as people keep trying to warn us who live in Lebanon and Iran, which didn't used to be majority fundamentalist Muslim countries, in recent memory, in our lifetimes or older people's lifetimes, Lebanon was, the Paris of the Middle East, and, vibrant multicultural society where women had full equal rights. Afghanistan, the same thing was true till, 70s, 80s. Same thing was true in Iran. And then came Muslim fundamentalism. So even in Muslim countries where I have traveled extensively, moderate, I would say sane people who just want to raise their families and, worship their faith and be positive members of society, fear the rise, the dominance of these fundamentalist, medieval kind of Islamicist cults. And so that's bizarrely what's joining forces with communism, which of course hates all religion, calls religion the opiate of the masses. That's Karl Marx, the initial theorist of communism's language. Targets churches, targets synagogues, destroyed churches in Russia, in Maoist China, destroyed monasteries where Buddhist monks were practicing, destroyed artwork, in Afghanistan, they destroyed artwork as well. They destroy Buddhas, right? But communism is overtly anti-religious. And communism is also about, allegedly, quote unquote, liberating women from the family, and allegedly about breaking the bonds of the nuclear family, whereas fundamentalist Islam is about returning women to a pre-medieval Dark Ages status and treating them as chattel, treating girls as chattel. I mean, horrific human rights abuses. 98% of the women in Northern Africa, all the way down to many countries in Central Africa, undergo clitoridectomies. And in some countries like Somalia, they undergo infibulation, which is the sewing together of the vagina, like horrific tortures. So you can imagine generation after generation after generation of traumatized women raising the children of the next generation, girls being married off in rural fundamentalist Islamic Pakistan at 9, in Afghanistan, girls are being married off when they're not even pubescent, quote unquote, married off. This is human trafficking and child abuse of the most extreme kind, at least according to Western norms. But these are not Western norms. So you would think that the social mores of communism, the social mores of Islam, fundamentalist Islam, would not harmonize. But these entities have joined forces to subvert the United States. And they're joining forces in Britain and throughout Western Europe. The Marxist takeover in America is a little more obvious because they call themselves the Democratic Socialists of America. They're more hidden in the labor movement or concealed within the labor movement in Britain and in other sort of entities across Western Europe. But here we have this absolute marriage of Marxists and fundamentalist Islamicists. And I can tell you, when they do away with all of us moderate American patriots, right, who love our way of life and love our civilization, which is their goal, their stated goal, for sure, it's the Islamicists who will do away with the communists. Communists are not going to win. And the spread of fundamentalist Islam all over dozens of countries shows how this happens, because there is no dissent that's brooked once Sharia law becomes the law of the land. And what they're building up in Texas, in Minnesota, and now here in New York is a parallel society, parallel political system, more and more demonstrations of power, of territoriality, public prayer, call to prayer that we're not supposed to have in public space in a separation of church and state, right? Many good congressional and judicial battles have been waged all the way up to the Supreme Court to make sure that no one religion predominates and takes over politics or public space or the public school system in America. But the power of this highly funded Islamicist, Marxist marriage is blowing that all to smithereens. So what I am going to tell you today is that I am very disappointed in legacy media, and I'm very, very disappointed in independent media, because literally no one that I have seen has checked the election results that are being taken as given about this primary. And This dog just keeps moving the cord of my computer. And so here, he's sitting in my lap like a baby. This is very serious because none of these results are final. None of these victors are certified by the alleged victors are certified by the New York Board of Elections. Not one. So all the media saying, oh my God, hooray, the DSA triumphed in New York. Or, oh my God, what a nightmare, it's time to leave, the DSA triumphed in New York. Just like with Zoran Mamdani's alleged victory, which I was involved in as an advisor to one of the candidates running for city council, Athena Clark, in November of 2025, no one checked that he had actually been the victor. And to this day, my candidate, Athena Clark, has not received a formal letter, which you're supposed to receive as a candidate from the New York Board of Elections saying, you lost formally, this is your vote count. She hasn't received it. There's no conclusion to her race for city council. She has no idea, no formal certification that she, won or lost, or what the final vote tally was. And I haven't seen, I'll keep looking, and in this podcast, I'll take a look on the New York Board of Elections website. I haven't seen a formal certification of Zoran Mamdani's victory. And so what I'm warning you about is that it is very easy in a time of social media and bots to create the impression that an electoral victory has been won or lost, and have everyone repeating unsourced sound bites, baseless press releases or screenshots of analyses of the vote without any primary documentation. And that is what's happening. Why does this matter? I personally have no confidence that Zoran Mamdani won the November 2025 mayoral race. Why do I have no confidence? I've written about this on my Substack and in Daily Cloud, because the Board of Elections, and I recorded it on my phone, the Board of Elections stonewalled me and my candidate for 35 minutes, refusing to give us any documentation of the results of the mayoral race or of her city council race, refusing to give her her file, which belongs to her, and refusing to let me launch what New York state law provides for any citizen, which is a 3% paper ballot hand count. They wouldn't let me start the count. There were other horrific anomalies in the mayoral election. I have affidavits from poll workers saying that they were told to feed double votes that voted for Mamdani twice. His name appeared on the ballot twice. Other people's did too. My candidate, no, but his did twice. These are supposed to be spoiled ballots, but they were told by the poll workers to feed them into the machine nonetheless. And we're not allowed, of course, to examine the algorithm in the machine, but it's very, very easy to have an algorithm that counts a spoiled ballot twice if the spoiled ballot is fed into the machine instead of discarded and redone by the voter, which is what is supposed to happen. I have affidavits from poll workers to this effect, and I tried to get a lawyer to compel a 3% paper ballot hand count, and none of them, 4 lawyers would not represent me because see what happens to lawyers who ask to count the vote in New York, they get destroyed the way former Mayor Rudy Giuliani was destroyed when he tried to count the vote on behalf of President Trump. And so it's terrifying. And some of the lawyers basically said, this will end my career, this will ruin me. No one's gonna, help you count the vote properly. The other thing I want to say about why this matters, why this is not a conspiracy theory or barking up a tree, I was an advisor to Vice President Al Gore in the year 2000 when he ran for president of the United States. Come on up and join us, honey. All right, well, Brian has a really important thing to share shortly, but let me know when you want to join because I've got a few things. Okay. Well, Gore, on election night, The vote wasn't final. There were hanging chads, as you may recall if you're old enough to remember. There were votes that were questioned. And there's a process for that. And we went all the way through the process. It took 3 weeks after, maybe 5 weeks after election night. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court decided. And meanwhile, I've seen this movie before. Each side was claiming victory. Now, we were more gentlemanly and traditional than the Bush team. They claimed victory immediately. They were like, oh, we won. He should just concede. Remember sore loser men? Play on Gore Lieberman. Lieberman was his running mate. They coined that, and there was this drumbeat of pressure: concede, 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 concede. They were just saying Bush like gave a victory speech, right? He was forcing the issue, and that was smart, right? But luckily, courts and voters were smarter then, and ballots were on paper. So the whole process was adjudicated. There were lawyers on both sides. Every vote was recounted that was in question. Every county was recounted that was in question. And again, the lawsuits went all the way up to the highest court in the land, which decided it, which is how our system works. But that happened weeks later. So now what I'm seeing as a veteran of that kind of struggle, right, in which if it had been digital and Gore or Bush just said, oh, I won, and then all the media said, oh, Bush won, or oh, Gore won, we might not have the right president, right? We might not have the person who was actually elected, with the vote. So it's very, very dangerous to buy into, especially with digital technology, counting the vote. And I've written about this. There is no way to be sure that the votes are properly counted if you can't see the algorithm. There's no way. Since 2005, when voting machines were brought in and forced down everyone's throats through legislation, we cannot tell if our votes are secure, if the right people have been elected. Because I am CEO of a tech company. You can literally write an algorithm to read anything. If you can write an algorithm to read, count every Democratic ballot, but count every third Republican ballot. You can. It's so easy. And if no one lets you look at the algorithm, right, then you have no idea what the machine is counting. So, in my own lifetime, 10 years ago, when you voted in New York, you went to PS4 around the corner from where I lived then, and you went into a voting booth, you closed the curtain, there was this big metal machine, and you took a giant lever and it went chunk, 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 and it, imprinted your ballot, your paper ballot, and the paper ballots were counted. That's a secure election. We don't have that now. So what I'm telling you is that in the mayoral race, there were all of these polling companies that popped up and they said, oh, Mamdani's way ahead. Oh my God, look, a surge from Zoran Mamdani. And I was like, who are you? Because we used to have 4 or 5, very solid, well-known pollsters in America. And we knew who they were. We could ask follow-up questions. They gave press conferences and they published their data. You could look at it. They published their methodology. You could check it. That is how Time and Newsweek reported polling results. Here's the methodology. Here are the numbers. Well, these people showed up out of nowhere and they're like, he's way ahead, says this, poll of New Yorkers. And then you had to tease things apart the way reporters are supposed to do, right? Hello, to find out that this company is based in Brazil. It didn't exist 5 years ago. They're not even American. And what is their, I remember what this was. Their questions went only online. They weren't calling people on the phone. So they weren't getting older people. They weren't getting people who are not at home, unemployed, or working remotely during the day. It was artificially skewing young and techie, right? And so they weren't getting older people. They weren't getting all the Cuomo voters, right? They weren't getting older Americans instead of young immigrants, right? It was skewed. The methodology skewed the result, but also you couldn't take a look at the data. And when you actually could find the data, it really fell apart because it was so methodologically flawed. But who were these people? You couldn't ask them, why is your methodology so bad? They're in Brazil. There was no name attached to this. There's no pollster. There was no person you could contact and ask questions about. So polling claims turned into a form of viral propaganda. And then on election night, I saw my candidate watch the numbers go in her favor, and then stop, and then not move for the rest of the night. And then she never heard anything back, but everyone said, oh, her opponent won. We had no evidence her opponent won, none. And then finally, adding to that, the horrific problems at the polling places and the fact that there was a different rule for counting the vote in Queens. There was a different rule in Queens. They took one borough where Mamdani happens to come from and made a different rule for counting the vote. How effed up is that? So many things were wrong with that election. One of them that was wrong is I couldn't find the certification of Zoran Mamdani's victory or the final numbers. So now this brings us to the moment. And finally, as a reporter, the fact that the Board of Elections tried so hard to prevent me to this day from launching a 3% hand count of paper ballots. Why? If nothing's wrong, let me count the paper ballots. Let me count the ballots that my own candidate generated in her own race. They wouldn't let me do that. Now, honey, I want to do one thing. It'll take 5 minutes, and then Brian has some really important stuff to show us. I want to share some information. This is a post I made, and it says, I'm on the New York Board of Elections website, and as I have been warning, none of the winners declared by media or the candidates in New York City's primary is official. These are unofficial numbers. And I'm going to read the statement to you from the actual Board of Elections website in just a moment. And I want to show you a couple of other things. Some of the people were being force-fed. Did she win? This is Reason Magazine. It's a, more right-wing, more conservative publication. This is Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier, who will be this Congress's first campus radical if she wins, right? The general election. A democratic socialist who favors the eradication of Western civilization just won her primary. Here's Reason Magazine saying she won. She hasn't won yet, Reason Magazine. She hasn't won. These are unofficial numbers. So they're claiming the Democratic primary elections in New York City went very well for the Democratic Socialists of America. Mayor Zoran Mamdani, a Democratic Socialist, leveraged his popularity and star power. Why is Reason writing like this? To propel 3 of his best friends to victory over more establishment figures, 2 of them incumbents. The winners are all but guaranteed to advance to Congress: Brad Lander, Claire Valdez, and Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier. Avila Chevalier, the most overtly radical of the 3, is an interesting figure because she represents a stunning triumph for modern campus progressive activism. She comes directly from that world. Avila Chevalier was a prominent far left activist at Columbia University throughout the 2010s, remained involved with the pro-Palestinian campus protests there in 2023, pretty old student. Following Israel's attack on Hamas in Gaza, she co-founded Columbia University Apartheid and Divest, an organization that did not merely oppose the state of Israel, but also celebrated terrorism outright. After the death of Yahya Sinwar, Kuad's Substack published a glowing eulogy of the Hamas terrorist who masterminded the October 7th attack on Israelis. Kuad hailed him as a, quote, hero of the revolution, guided by, quote, pragmatic optimism. The group called on its followers to, quote, reflect on how we can make ourselves more like him. Avila Chevalier was also involved with a related group, Students for Justice in Palestine, which explicitly celebrated the October 7th terrorist attack as a, quote, historic win. And it goes on to talk about her, a gold mine of 2010 era radicalism. She wants to abolish not just the police, but the very concept of police entirely. For good measure, she views interracial relationships with suspicion, thought COVID-19 originated in France, and thinks white people are not hygienic. She refused to say that murderers belong in prison. And that day has finally arrived, that the Eras campus protesters would not shed their radicalism when they graduated from college. And so that is this candidate who every media outlet is saying that she won. She hasn't won. I'm just going to show you one more very important thing, which is the actual New York State Board of Elections. Okay, so let me go back to the actual homepage. This is, let's see if you can see that. This is New York State. Yes, you can. Board of Elections. This is the only source that matters, right? These are the people who formally tell you who won, all right? So, and it says this is unofficial election night results. There are no official election night results yet. And there's a statement. Welcome to the New York State Board of Elections election night reporting page. Please be advised that the polls in New York State close at 9 p.m. That was 2 nights ago, right? Mm-hmm. It may take some time after 9 p.m. for results to begin to appear on this page. If a county has not yet uploaded their election results to this website, or if you are looking for local election results, please contact the County Board of Elections, who, by the way, I've tried to, sweetheart, you're not in the frame.
I need room.
Oh, I'm sorry. Come on in. I've tried to contact the New York State Board of Elections. They are completely unresponsive. They kind of muscled me out of their office when I went there in person. Please contact the County Board of Elections totally fruitlessly. Write-in results are shown in the aggregate. Individual names for write-ins are only published in the official results and only by the state board if a write-in candidate is a winner. So, statement on the unofficial nature of.
I'm just feeling the heaviness of such a corrupt city.
Thank you. So here's the statement. They want everyone who bothers to look on the only official source for election results. I'm just trying to keep you in the frame, sweetheart. This is what they want everyone to know. The unofficial election night results displayed on this website are based on the unofficial results reported to us by each county board of elections, and as such are posted on the web as a convenience to the public. That is not the same as a certified result. New York State election law requires a complete re-canvass of all votes cast during early voting and on election day, and the canvass of all valid early mail, absentee, military overseas, special, and affidavit provisional ballots before any election results can be certified. Please remember that initial election night results may change as all valid ballots are processed and counted in the days following election day, and county boards upload updated results. Once all ballot counting tasks have been completed, usually within 15 days for a primary, that's a week and a half from now, and within 25 days for a general election, each county board certifies their respective election results pursuant to and in accordance with the applicable sections of New York State election law, sections 3 to 22, 9200, 9208. Those certifications are then sent to the State Board for aggregation, certification, and publication posting. So we don't know who won. These are not official results. There are hundreds of thousands, possibly, of ballots, or at least thousands, that are still not counted and represented in these tallies. These tallies do not include military ballots. They don't include overseas ballots. They don't include affidavit provisional ballots like the one that Brian will tell you about. They don't include early mail. They don't include absentee. They don't include special ballots for people with disabilities who need help filling out a ballot. So this is in no way can you say that is that we know who won. We don't know who won. So I want to show you now one more thing.
And they don't even include, the ballots from the illegal aliens who are still on their way to New York.
That's right, Charlie.
Right.
Okay, very true. So I'm almost about to stop talking. What I want to show you is that this website really tries to conceal the results. You have to really look. So here's the state Senate, for instance. and you can press search. Oh, what do you know? We're experiencing technical difficulties and cannot display the unofficial election night results page. Please try again later. I guess we have pretty good reach because this was displaying before I went on the air. Can you see that message? There's a glitch. There's a glitch. They won't show you the unofficial election results. And what they're not letting me show you.
I've got to check a number before I talk.
What they're not letting me show you now. This is crazy, you guys. We could search this, before I got on camera 35 minutes ago. What they are not letting me show you is that New York state law compels a hand count of paper ballots if there is a 20% or less difference between two candidates. Well, there is a 20% or less difference between two of the candidates, one of whom is one of the DSA candidates that is getting so much press as having won. So she hasn't won because New York state law compels a hand count between her and her runner-up because it's less than a 20% difference. And you could see that if there weren't a weird technical problem showing up all of a sudden on the New York State Board of Elections website. So that's not happening. And by the way, I believe Zoran Mamdani had been on the Board of Elections before he was on the Board of Elections before he became mayor. So
I think he was on it during the race.
I think you're right.
Yeah, that's
how can that even be possible? So what you would see if you could get on the only source that any media should be using, which would, if they were honest news reporters, cause them to say these are unofficial numbers. The official numbers won't be provided until certification 15 days from now, or now 13 days from now. What you would see is that these are tiny turnouts, like a few thousand people in many cases. It's not a wave. Many of the races were won by non-DSA candidates, which some Republicans are trying to point out to basically an echo chamber. No one's listening. But what you would see is that these aren't final numbers and that the numbers change, as the Board of Elections warned you, and that the Board of Elections is not doing its job, or not publicly doing its job, in saying, hey, wait a minute, there's less than a 20% difference between these two candidates. So there has to be, by New York state law, a paper ballot hand recount to see who the real winner is. Over to you, darling. Please tell people what you were doing on election night and what you got out of it.
Well, I got my 17,000 steps, which brought me to every polling site that I could find in Brooklyn.
All right.
So I went to 5 of them.
Uh-huh.
And so, actually, let me just pump the brakes here. So a lot of you are probably wondering why this matters, right? They're all Democrats. Well, they're not all Democrats. So why does it matter to you? Because these are socialists. They're actually communists, the Mamdani crew, DSA, and there are many relabeled subsidiaries who have plans to take the country by taking these local elections one state at a time. And if you think this doesn't affect you, and for all the yahoos out there going, oh, they voted for this. No, they didn't. We didn't. You should pay attention. First of all, if New York is lost to communists who are aligned with globalist entities, that's like literally taking the brain and wallet out of the United States and holding it hostage. That's why it affects you. Mm-hmm. It also affects you because these same people who you basically took almost by political force, one of the most powerful cities in the world, if not the most powerful city in the world, they have chapters in 47 different states.
Wow.
And in most counties. So check out your state. Even if you're a deep red state like Florida, they've got 17 chapters of DSA, and they're on the ground moving. And the way they're appealing to people is they're going after the whole working class thing, but they're not selling it as socialism or communism. They will change the names. So even though the DSA is aligned with that group, they'll then do a splinter organization called, like, for example, the Florida, red, white, and blue team. And they're like, oh, well, they're backed by the Florida red, white, and blue team. I'll vote for them. Well, they're actually socialist. Or in every state, what they're doing is they're running the food banks. Okay, so while they're running the food banks, they're literally registering people
Mhm.
that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then when people vote, they think, oh, look, isn't that the people that fed us?
Mm-hmm.
Let's vote for them.
Mm-hmm.
So pay attention to what's happening in New York and then look at your own state. That's why this matters. That's why we're talking about it, because it was like watching, right and left battle it out here in the city. And let me give an example of that. Then I'll get into why I'm explaining this. You've got at our local level. This is in our borough. You have these people, and the camera's not mirrored. So, can you mirror the camera?
I don't know how sweet are.
Let me just do that really quick. Sorry, but basically, you have the people I just showed you, visual effects. There we go. I'm not gonna worry about it. Okay. I can't figure it out.
Okay, that's okay.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Got it. Okay. So you have these people, right? They're all Democrats. Yvette Clarke, Brian Cunningham, Michelle Teggy, Anthony Beckford, Michelle D'Souza.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. These might as well be the Republicans, even though they're Democrats. So these are the moderate, classic, what do you call them? Like, kind of like what we could call Dan Goldman.
Traditional liberals.
Traditional liberals. These are them. Dan Goldman, was a traditional liberal who was even like anti-Trump and everything like that. His biggest sin, honestly, is that he is Jewish and that he received money from AIPAC. Mm-hmm. Never mind the other candidates received money from China. CARE, which is the Council on Arab Islamic Relations, which is behind that is the Muslim Brotherhood, who is like the largest brain trust of terrorism against the United States. Mm-hmm. And again, so that's what happened. And then you have these people, right? They're Democrats too. But when I talked to this woman, Nakisha, who was 2 blocks down, I had a conversation with her for about 20 minutes. She's like, I bet you never heard of the Brooklyn Democratic Party. And I was like, what's the Brooklyn Democratic Party? She's like, and I'm like, okay. And when she started saying where they stand on things, that's where it hit me. Okay, these are socialists, because she started saying, we believe in universal health care, universal housing. The big one in New York is this thing called Stop Deed Theft, which deed theft is legitimate stealing people's deeds and taking over their homes. They've expanded that definition to these big corporations who have all these lawyers and buy people's homes. They should give them back because the people, they weren't ready to deal with such big corporations, and they're picking on the little people. They call that the deed theft.
Wow. And so it's going to prevent people from selling their homes? What's the goal?
The goal is to seize property from existing projects and established places like the one we're in. So I knew right away. So the point is, you've got communists, okay, and really dumb liberals who are communist adjacent but are not crazy Mondami type people. So this would be like the Bolsheviks here. Mm-hmm. This is like the Mensheviks. Mm-hmm. And if you might want to explain to people. So if you don't know that history, the Bolsheviks, that was Lenin's party. So after the revolution in 1917 in Russia, the Bolsheviks were only 23% favored. Oh, wow. They're they're only 23%. However, this might sound familiar. Right. And then there were the Mensheviks and a couple other parties, all social, and they were all vying for power. Who's going to run the communists? Who's going to run the new state here? But what the Bolsheviks did is first they took on the name Bolsheviks, which means like majority, or the big ones, Menshevik, and they kind of gave the name Menshevik to their opposition, which means the small ones, the minority. And then they were also centered in the urban centers. So they had the newspapers, they took over Pravda, and then anyone that didn't red stamp their candidates, they would shut down. And then they took over positions. They took the positions in the new communist group that were like security, communications, police, and then they'd use that to take out their enemies.
Wow.
And once they took one city, they take the other city, and then the countryside pretty much is at their mercy. It's the same thing that's happening here.
Right.
If you see what the DSA is doing, the Democratic Socialists of America, they're having these wins, like in the primary in New York, which you're right, was not a big win. Only 17% of the Democrat voters turned out. It was way lower than when Mondami ran for mayor. And of those 17%, and this is where the numbers are weird, and this is the New York Post, only 7% of the active voters voted for Mondami's endorsed candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure. So I'm guessing the other numbers are just spread out, but only 7%. So that's like, I can't even do the math. It's a few thousand people
Right.
voted for this.
You can see that on the Board of Elections site that is now mysteriously malfunctioning. It's literally 7,000 people in a precinct or in a.
And that's total voters.
Yeah.
So of those 7,000, I would assume, let's just assume 75% are Democrats.
Some are like 70,000. I mean, some are more populous.
But what I'm saying is, it shouldn't take more than a night to count these votes.
Totally.
I mean, I went to all these polling sites throughout the day.
Mhm.
On the last day of
They
elections.
were empty.
They were empty. There was no one,
One
there.
was there.
Everyone's sitting around. There's electioneers right outside the zone. It was funny watching these people sitting near each other. You know, this one's representative had no idea who her own candidates were. These, I got to give them credit. These ones are energetic, and that's what gets people's attention. And they wear the mask of, we're just like them.
Right.
You know, we're Democrats too, but they're not.
Right.
So pay attention to it in your own city, because it does matter. Because when you get that weak Republican running against a very charismatic,
Young,
socialist,
energetic.
you could lose your governorship.
Their language is so well tested to,
Right.
a more affordable New York. Who isn't going to be supportive of that? Free childcare. Who's going to say no to that?
And you're right. And it's like, I think a lot of people who, don't live in major cities, they probably think, oh, someone in an Antifa mask running for office and pumping their fist in the air with their Che Guevara, attire on. They never win in my state or anything. But that's not how they're doing it. They're nurses and doctors and teachers, and I honestly thought they were conservative until I read her
and
card.
smiley. They're smiling.
And then even the Democrats, like, this is what they look like. They're not. They're even hiding the DSA label now,
Right.
because shows like ours and other bigger shows have kind of said these are communists.
Right.
So now they changed the names.
Sweetheart, before you
Mhm.
get into what you got at the polling place, would you talk about going undercover to the DSA meetings and what actually happens at those meetings?
Yeah, that's so the biggest focus. So I went to a couple coffees with comrades, and I just sign up. It's not hard. I just signed up and changed my name a little, and I just go in and I talked to my 28-year-old daughter. I said, hey, how can I sell this? Because she unfortunately dated a member of the DSA.
Does she want you sharing this?
Well, I just did, so it doesn't matter. But the thing is, I told her, I said, yeah, I was gonna say I work for Greenpeace and all this, because that's how I used to do it. I used to do this undercover stuff all the time. And she's like, no. See, Greenpeace is out.
Oh.
Liberals are so confusing. So Greenpeace, that's not cool anymore, because they see that as exploitative of the southern, what do they call it? Global South.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, wow. I said, well, what if they find out I'm a veteran? She goes, that's good.
Why?
That's a big catch for socialists.
Why?
Well, because you can really propagandize and make a mascot out of that. Because one of their other enemies is the military and security. Police and military are the same thing to communists.
Right.
They have to be eliminated. So I went in as a disabled veteran, which I am, who doesn't own. I rent, and my landlord sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just kidding. But yeah, and I had to be unemployed, but doing a couple jobs like DoorDash and stuff like that. And then I fit right in, even though I'm much older than most of the people there. And it's sad because there's these really, I'm just gonna say it, ugly women with meaty arms running the show. And like the men,
baby,
no, I said it. It's too late. And the men seem kind of scared of them because like guys. I mean, it's like you go to a barbecue or something, you find the dudes and you try to make friends. Oh no, not here. I'm like, hey, what's up, brothers? They're like, hey, and I was just trying to get their opinions on things, and they kept glancing at these women and they wouldn't give them. It was sad. But what I did find out is their main focus is their number one focus in New York, landlords, but not BlackRock, just landlord, like private landlords. And that's their number. They have tenant committees and everything. And a tenant committee basically means an anti-landlord terrorist cell.
Which the early Marxists in Russia did as well.
Totally did the same thing.
Did China do that too? Like citizens groups
well, they had the Red Guard,
who
did it all.
But the same goal of badgering the bourgeoisie, hounding small property owners, small business owners, small farmers.
It started with the business owners and the political opposition in China. And then when they ran out of those people to pretty much massacre, then it went down to teachers, because anyone in an authority position, and then it went down to small farm owners. We're talking small dirt farms.
So back to being undercover with the DSA, what's your takeaway?
Well, look, here's what they do right. And I think this is what the late Charlie Kirk was trying to do, and it's probably why he was assassinated by who I believe are the same types of people.
Wow.
They give a lot of isolated people in their 25 to about 45 range something to do. They give them a social life. They give them, responsibility and a mission. I mean, believe it or not, most of these DSA people work for free. We see the news about paid protesters. Those are just the organizers. But like these people are out there because they want to be out there. They're in the club. They're elevated quickly. I actually got elevated to lead a tenant commission.
Really? Did you do it?
Yeah, and then I caused internal fights, and then they had to shut it down. I did that on purpose. But I actually elevated.
You never told me.
Yeah, I did.
That's so wrong.
Yeah, no, I spread rumors about this person and this person. I got them all. I was like Stewie on Family Guy when he went to daycare, and that was my intent, to see if it would work as a test. But
did they kick you out of the group?
No, I dissolved the group with the permission of the. The senior Politburo gave my authorization to dissolve that sub chapter.
But did they kick you out of the master group?
No, I'm still in.
You're still in.
I just attended the Win Party online just last night.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and
but they won't invite you back if they watch this show.
Oh, they will, because I made it not my fault.
Yeah, but they'll know who you are now.
No, they won't.
Okay.
They won't. I mean, when I first met you, I saw pictures of you online just so I could see who you were, so I could find you at our first meeting. And I still don't recognize her it's a weird thing. It's like when you see someone in person, they just look different. I had a limp, definitely slump my shoulders as much as I can, sit with my legs as close together as I am physically able. And, I act like a wimp. But an angry wimp, because I'm mad at something. I don't know what it is.
Oh my God.
But what I did discover is where they're strong is that it's a way of life for them. Politics is a way of life. That's it. It's the in crowd and the out crowd. Yeah. So there's two crowds in Brooklyn, which is like the kind of the cool kids center. In Brooklyn, you're either a DJ. This is when you're not working. A DJ, a socialist, a DJ socialist, okay? Or you're an NPC, you're a gray matter, you're nobody. Right. You're in the club scene, or you're in the socialist scene. And they're even taking over clubs.
Like dance clubs?
Yeah, they have their hangouts. They have a ton of bookstores like that, Poetica.
Right. Poetica is a DSA bookstore.
Yep.
Poetica was made famous for doxing Dan Goldman, the guy running against Brad Lander, the one you mentioned, who is kind of more moderate Democrat. He was there with his 7-year-old daughter, and they took his picture, doxed him, and said horrible things about his support for Israel. And that was like one day before the primary election. So
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a DSA.
Oh, they have everything.
Cafe.
And I recommend everyone research your enemies. I consider them my enemy, and that's why I looked at them. But they have free martial arts.
Oh, wow.
They have free daycare.
Right. Wow.
It's like red diaper
this is
baby.
Powerful. How
They
do you
have
resist
they have
that?
the 5K run team, which goes over in Prospect Park every Thursday night. They do it all. They have date night.
Well, I mean, this is going to be very powerful because 20-somethings and late teens and early 30s, they're isolated, they're lonely, they're on screens all the time, they don't have social skills, they don't know how to make friends, they don't go to church, churches were closed, synagogues were closed, they're barely open anymore, they don't have community, everything's like swipe right. So if you've actually got an in real life community saying, come to a run, come learn martial arts, let's have yoga,
and there's no automated, another thing too, and I'm going to say this to the Republican Party, I blocked all of your auto texts because they got so annoying and they were so impersonal and just so disingenuous. And would I, using a different phone, of course, I still get texts from these DSA people, and now I'm getting texts from the Party for Socialism and Liberation, PSL, wow. Which is like their more violent wing.
Oh my God, honey, don't get recruited.
I joined them too, but
don't engage in any like undercover violence.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
No, I would go there and like hand out like hot cocoa that has X-Lax in it. But the thing is, they're personally reaching out to me. Like if I was I was lonely,
it's not an auto text.
Or it's like, hey, Sam,
come on, Brian.
Hey, Sam, blah, 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 it's like, I'm like, oh man, but the weather, it's so cold. It's okay. We'll bring extra hats, and it's like, if I was like isolated and people are very isolated in cities, believe it or not. I think there's more community outside of cities than in cities, even though we're on top of each
that's
other.
Powerful. They're love bombing them. That's what cults used to do.
That's why they keep turning out. They don't care if they get one guy through or three candidates through. They keep going because they're doing this 365 days a year.
And they're building up their lists with each election.
And they're also peppering and papering the town. You see, you go around Brooklyn, you see two things. You see Dan Goldman gets money from AIPAC stickers everywhere. And then you see DSA everywhere. Then you see Marx and all this other stuff and the Maoists.
No, it's
and
true. They're everywhere. Yeah.
So what did I discover? So that's what I discovered in the undercover meetings.
Shall I read a thank you to our sponsors and then everyone can come back for the juiciest part of this podcast?
Well, they shouldn't go anywhere because our sponsors are.
Well, that's what I meant. Everyone will come back to this podcast. So something I've been thinking about as we've been having these conversations is not just what's happening in our institutions, or in the economy, but what people actually do once they have awareness of the corruption and instability out there. Because I hear from a lot of people who can see what's going on, who understand the risks in the economy, the instability, the loss of trust in institutions. And yet when it comes to their own savings, their own retirement funds, they're still very much tied to those same corrupt systems. And it's interesting because it's not usually for a lack of understanding. It's more a sort of hesitation. It's that space between knowing something and deciding to act on it. And that's something people look back on later with regret. So what I'm noticing more and more is that some people are starting to shift their thinking a bit about their money, and they're moving away from trying to predict every outcome and more toward asking a very basic question: how exposed am I? And you and I have had that conversation, and that is why we have diversified. How exposed are we? And for some people, that leads them to explore ways of holding a portion of their savings outside of the traditional financial system, including in things such as physical gold. I've been speaking with Augusta Precious Metals about this, and what I appreciate is that they approach this question from an educational perspective. They take the time to walk people through how it'll work and what to consider, and whether it even makes sense for that individual in that person's situation to invest in gold or hold savings in gold. And they do this without any pressure. If you want to look into it more carefully, you can go to dailycloutgold.com or text CLOUT, C-L-O-U-T, to 35052. That's 35052, and ask for Augusta's free information kit. It's just a way to understand your options more clearly so that when you do make a decision, you do so from a place of clarity rather than hesitation. Go ahead, sweetheart.
That's right.
That's right.
So, all right. So there you have that. And I do want to say probably in a couple hours, I'm going to do my show, Investigate Everything. And I touched on the DSA many times. It's shocking, the DSA in New York, who they're backed by. They're backed by some hardcore terrorist groups from the 70s.
Serious.
And it's mainly central.
Really?
Yes. And it's mainly like, the Sons of Puerto Rico.
What?
Yeah, there's one group.
How is the Justice Department or the FBI not all over this?
No. There's I don't want to give too much away, but there's one group that is prominent on their website, and that on DSA's website. Then it links to their group, and I look up these guys, and I'm like, okay, they sound like terrorists. I look them up; they're Puerto Rican, and their names are like so and so, little puppet, and I look them up, and they come from they're like uncles and parents and stuff were in these terrorist organizations in the 70s that actually did a bombing campaign around New York.
Oh my God. Where's the FBI? Seriously?
They went to jail, and guess who let them out? Obama.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, Obama let them out.
Was Obama like the gateway drug for all of this?
Oh, Obama's at the core of a lot of this. I mean, he's like so you have the DSA.
Go ahead.
That's like, DSA is kind of like Best Western, right? Like that's your overall national brand.
Okay.
And then under DSA, you'll have different things in different neighborhoods. That's why they're hard to spot sometimes. But here in our area, we have the New Kings Democrats. Okay. And then under New Kings Democrats, we have Brooklyn Can't Wait.
Wow, they have.
But then if you look here on their card, they have endorsements for these two by the New King Democrats and Brooklyn Can't Wait.
They're circling. It's a
Brooklyn Can't Wait is a project of New King. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. They're endorsing themselves. That's hilarious.
But
tragic.
New King's Democrats was formed out of Brooklyn for Obama.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So
2008.
He is the gateway.
2008. And they're about the same age. So
do you think Obama is a socialist underneath?
Oh, he's a total socialist. He's loving this. He's, they never talk bad about Obama. Yeah. Obama's he's always.
And you would have thought if they're going
he's
after
always
the,
been
establishment.
But he's radical. I mean, let's not forget Obama had like the youth volunteer force that he was forming. It was like it's like he's building up a little army of like bruisers.
But can I say something, honey?
Yeah. This house is a democracy. We still have our freedom. You can say anything you want as long as you don't insult no kings for Brooklyn.
Right.
For
real classical liberals like me, I still consider myself a classical liberal, believe it or not. Although I guess I'm a pretty conservative classical liberal. But still, there's nothing innately bad about that kind of WPA New Deal kind of get the young people clearing weeds out of the national forests, with their hose and get the artists painting murals. Like there's nothing that bad about baby.
I think there's. I think it's totally anti-capitalist to do those kind of things.
No, well, I think that now, but
because you're not teaching them how to fish.
Right.
It'd be better to say, get your friends together, form a company, and bid on this contract to do that.
Right.
Instead, you're going to have like they did with the shoveling campaign.
Right. I mean, you've persuaded me, and other people have persuaded me, but I'm just saying, just to let you know, like how hard this fight is going to be. To lots of even liberals, which is why I think classical liberals, like all these people who are getting ousted, are these
these two won.
Right. They don't recognize the danger is that we have been conditioned to think some amount of sitting in a circle and singing Kumbaya or, socialized medicine or socialized social security, is good. And it is good. Right? Social security is good. You don't want the elders to be in poor houses the way they used to be. Anyway, all I'm saying is
we'll talk about this another time.
You can't assume that even people like mainstream Democrats who should realize what a threat these people represent are going to freak out when they hear, oh, get the young people together to clean up the neighborhood. You know, they'll think, oh, isn't that cute? You know, just like they do.
Oh
in
yeah,
the
totally.
30s. That's all I want to say.
Well, and then most of them don't even live in the places they're running, like the traditional Democrats.
What do you mean?
They'll have an office there,
Right.
and you know that's like.
But you have to live in the place
But-
where you're running. I mean, RFK Jr. got in trouble for having
Yeah, they'll
an
check.
address
I mean,
in New
but
York and not being there enough.
you know, if you look at the laws the way they are, it's like, what does living mean? Like,
Right, that's true.
so the point is, it's like the worst thing they're doing though, the traditional Democrats, and I saw this with Blumenthal this morning on an interview with
Who Blumenthal?
Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut.
Uh-huh.
He's like a classic Democrat. He's a jerk too, but he's getting interviewed by, I think, Allison Steinberg of Lindell TV.
Really?
And yeah, no, they're doing great.
Wow.
Allison Steinberg, and there's another girl over there that they're like, honestly, those two are like velociraptors, like all around the White House. They come out of nowhere. They're hitting interviews. They're you know, getting yelled at by Pelosi, and Maxine Waters won't even talk to them. And they're awesome, these two. But she was asking Blumenthal, like, well, are you concerned about this radical shift inside your party? Because remember, DSA is not a party.
Right.
They're latched on to the Democrats to get people into power.
Right.
And he's such a, I mean, honestly, like get that guy some ED medication, because he's sitting there and he's like, she hates when they do this on her show because she's a classy show. I'm not a classy show. I'm for the people in a non-communist way. But he's going, well, I think diversity is our strength, and it's exciting new energy. And I was like, yeah, that exciting new energy is going to kick your ass into the street next year.
Really true.
Because that's exactly what Dan Goldman was saying.
Yes.
And I hate to say it, and it's what's the guy down in Georgia, Stossel or whatever. He's if you're Jewish, forget about it. Like Brad Lander, he won't be around long, even though he won. He's just there to get them down the field.
But I have a question. I mean, and I texted a friend who's Jewish and old school and a former liberal this morning, and I'm like, are we hypnotized? Like, excuse me, wealthy New Yorkers, let alone influential or wealthy Jewish New Yorkers, don't, and I'm Jewish, so I can say this, we don't usually just sit there passively while, a threat of this magnitude comes at us. What is going on? Like, people usually fight for their own interests in New York City, especially influential people. They fight for their own interests.
Look, the only thing, and I know what you're saying, but I've got to say, you guys were all raised, and by you guys I mean liberals, and in a lot of cases communists, not you, but you're raised to fight conservatives.
That's true.
Okay, you're trained to fight Republicans and conservatives.
You're right.
This is your side.
You're right.
The same thing happened in Czechoslovakia in 1948.
You're right, and we don't want to be called racist.
You don't want to be called racist, and it's also confusing. Like, they're all Democrats,
right?
Who are you
and
fighting?
They're smiley young people, and they want to make things better. Right?
So I think that's the thing.
They can't.
It'd be like if all of a sudden we had another civil war. I was trained to fight terrorists when I was in the military, and I was trained to fight foreign countries. What if I had to fight people I served with and people I went to school with?
Right.
That must have been tough in the Civil War, and it's the same thing
You're
here.
Right. You should tell people what happened to you at the polling place now, please, honey.
Yeah, this is important. So, first of all, and I just read this. I recommend everyone read New York Post's article today. It's called "Young and Dumb" or something like that. But basically, 7%. Like there's not a Mondami wave. Let's just get that straight. Even in the primaries in his prime place in New York, because only a fraction of the people that turned out for Mondami turned out for these primaries, and that's something that, I hate to say it, but I would encourage regular Democrats to exploit and learn from these guys. But they can, I'll put it this way. It's so easy to vote multiple times in these primaries, at least. I don't vote here, so I don't know if this goes everywhere, but this is what happened. I go in, I want to get some video. I walk in, of course,
to the polling place.
but not my polling place. And so I walk in, and of course I go in there. It's like 5 ladies staring at me. So I just put my phone in my pocket, but I left it running, so I got the audio. And I went in and I said, "Hey, how you doing? I'm here to vote." And they're like, "Oh, great, thank you." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And I said, "Where's the?" And so I said, I said, I just moved here 9 months ago, so let me give you my ID. It's like, "Oh no, I got a kryptonite. Don't show me an ID." Okay. They're like, "What's your name?" And I'm like, Brian Smith with a Y.
Is that illegal? Are you going to get arrested? Is that illegal?
No, I didn't fill anything.
Okay.
And she's like, "Oh, okay." And she said, "What's your address?" And I gave an address that's close to our address. And she's like, "Oh, no, you're definitely in the wrong place, but I'm going to hook you up." And she was super nice. Don't get me wrong. She was really nice lady. But she said, "I'm going to hook you up." She goes, "All right, I'm going to give you a referral slip." And I go, "Oh, what's a referral slip?" "Well, a referral slip." I'll show you the back.
Hold it up, baby.
It is this. So what does that do? So you see there is a site right there for, these are I don't even know what these are. But basically, yeah, I think those are the districts. Yeah, the districts. And they put down your district. They put down, I don't know what EDAD is.
EDAD. It looks like the precinct.
Yeah, district.
Yeah, 43rd district. Yeah.
And then they put down the address I should go to. That's the site address here. And then they put down my name there. And then the address I give them and the name I give them, they don't check ID.
Right.
Then they say the polling, that's what it is, polling site. Mm-hmm. They give you the polling site I was referred by. So polling site, this polling site is referring me to this polling site. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then this is the address of the polling site. The poll worker signs their name here, mm-hmm. and then they give their poll worker ID number. Right. That's it. There's no ID. I gave them a totally fake name.
So I'm going to just hold it up more clearly so everyone can really see.
Yeah, don't show them the other side, though.
Really? Why not?
Because I might need it.
Oh, right. So I'm going to show you. I think that the takeaway I want to chime in with here is that.
Well, I was going to give the takeaway.
Okay, go ahead, honey. I'm sorry.
So she says to me, I said, "Okay, so what do I do with this? Why do I need this? Can't I just walk over there and go in and do what I did here?" She's like, "Well, this will let you walk right to the table without signing in." Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, so I just walk right in." She goes, "Walk right in, and they might ask for the slip or hold it up, and you can go right in and just go right to a booth."
Can I jump in and explain what that means without signing in? So in New York City, when you vote, or in Brooklyn, there are these tables manned by lovely volunteers, mm-hmm. and they're usually lovely church ladies in their 70s, and they're fabulous. They've been doing this for decades. And they have these giant books that have handwritten laboriously, line by line, block by block, building by building, the address and your name and probably your voter ID. And you cannot get past the church ladies and the big handwritten books that are the same year after year after year until they're updated when someone dies, mm-hmm. Unless your name and where you say you live matches what they've got in those big books. So what this person was saying to Brian, and she wasn't doing anything she wasn't told to do because they're trained by mm-hmm. people who train the poll workers in every election. She was telling Brian, here with this thing, this piece of paper, you can bypass that step. You don't need to verify that you are the person who lives in this place, who's registered to vote in this neighborhood. And if she could do that with Brian, it means they could do it with thousands and thousands of other people who may or may not live in the fake address that Brian put on.
Or they could basically take this. I'm pointing out this side here. My info's on the other side, but my fake info. But I want to point this out. This is a two-sided document.
It's a two-sided document.
So if I'm the DSA, let's just say, I want to make sure my person wins. I could go photocopy this.
Yep.
Cut it.
Yep.
Use her ID number. I doubt anyone's checking the ID numbers anyways. And even if they are, they're wearing them on their badges.
Yes.
And I could get 50 votes extra.
Yes.
To my
Which is
person,
all it takes.
Which is a lot in these. Like in some places they won. No one voted.
Yes.
So they'd send one person.
Exactly. Let me also show you, this could be Xerox so easily. There is no watermark on it.
Nope.
There's no official stamp of any kind. And this is, we investigated in 2014 the Scottish referendum, and we found that there were hundreds of blank ballots exactly like this, with no watermark, easily reproduced, being distributed to people in precincts that were likely to vote yes on secession from England, from Britain.
Well, the sad part is the only reason,
is exactly what happened.
The only reason it's two-sided is because they couldn't fit the foreign languages all in one site. You see that? So they got Spanish, and I guess that's Japanese, and then over here they have Korean and Hindi.
Well, that may
That's
be
the only difference.
allegedly the reason it's two-sided, but there really is no reason for it to be two-sided. This is the main side that Brian filled out. The only reason for it to be two-sided is to provide a blank, Xeroxable, fill-inable, don't bypass go, do not collect $200.
Yeah, because the English is the same.
Because the English is exactly the same. Right. There's no reason for it to have two sides except to provide a way to go to Kinko's or go to FedEx, make 1,000 copies, hand them out. You don't have to prove that you are the person registered to vote in those big books.
Right. And look, honestly, it's not like there's any security. Like, there's a stack of these things sitting on the table, and some unmanned techs just grab the stack. No one's going to stop me.
Right.
But the point is, like, in some of these little neighborhoods, they didn't have anyone show up to vote. They had like a lone poll worker. So in those cases there, let's say I'm working for the DSA crew. I've already voted. Well, I just fill out one of these. I walk over to that no vote area and I go, voting for the DSA person, and they win. They
win. Exactly. Yeah. Can I tell you something, honey? I, for the fun of it, asked the lady at the polling place nearby, even though I'm not registered to vote here, I'm registered to vote upstate. I said, hey, I'm registered to vote upstate, but I'd really like to vote today. Can I vote? And she's like, yes.
Yeah, totally.
I'll give you a waiver or something. Maybe she didn't use that exact language, but she was going to fully give me the ability to change my polling place. It would keep me from voting upstate, but she was willing to go ahead and have me, vote where I'm not registered to vote, essentially. And I wonder if that would have also led me to bypass.
I don't think, honestly, if you voted anywhere you want in the city multiple times, no one would know, because first of all, this is handwritten. They can't even count 2,000 votes in a week.
Right.
You really think they have those systems synced? I'm sure if it helps their candidate, they have them synced. But what I'm saying, when you said you couldn't vote because you're not registered, after doing this, I said she could vote.
Yeah. But they were willing on that day to change my registration. Usually it takes like weeks. You have to formally submit proof that you live where you live and you voted where you voted. Yeah. And no, she was just going to say, okay, fine. You say you live around the corner. Fine. You can vote here. Not checking that I hadn't already voted upstate, right? And the other thing that occurred to me, sweetheart, is of the people whose ballots have not been counted when the media and Mamdani and those DSA candidates and the New York Times declared winners, military.
Yeah, no, they don't have that.
But they tend to be more conservative. They're not going to be voting for people who hate America. Those are the ballots that have not been counted when everyone announced that.
Yeah, totally.
And for sure there would be enough.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And think about absentee ballots and military ballots, ballots of disabled people, all of those categories I read that haven't been counted yet, that are counted in the next 15 days, that could easily outweigh the very tiny margins that I'm going to try to look on the New York State Board. Oh, they still are having technical difficulties all the way through.
Do they have, is ballot harvesting legal in this state?
I'm not sure how you're defining that.
So ballot harvesting is like in California, they can actually go and pick up ballots at like nursing homes and stuff. And
I think it is,
Yeah.
but I don't want to swear to that until I check. But wow, we've been talking for 45 minutes since the New York State Board of Elections, where I can show you that it's just like a matter of 1,000 or 2,000 votes between candidates.
It's unbelievable.
Which mandates by New York State law a recount. I can't show you because they're still experiencing technical difficulties and cannot display the unofficial election night results page. Please try again later. It's been 2 days after the election, one of the most hotly contested primaries in America. The New York State Board of Elections website is down for almost an hour in the middle of the day.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
We better look at the Wayback Machine because they may be changing the numbers. I'm not kidding.
We'll make sure it's saved on the Wayback Machine, but yeah, we'll do that. But I do want to point another thing out too. If you're in a blue city and you're not sure if the candidate is DSA or kind of like America not first, but certainly not America last Democrat, it's pretty easy. Look at these. What do you notice?
I don't know.
Look at the colors.
Oh.
Red, white, and blue.
Oh, yeah. Ukrainian colors.
Mondami's colors.
Right. Oh, is he blue and yellow?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And it's also the same yellow tone that China uses.
Oh, so. You're right. It is. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And the graphics are very 1930s Marxist graphics.
Yeah.
Not here particularly, but in a lot of the other DSA type communist.
See, and I don't understand why Dan Goldman didn't have a better ground game. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like you never see Republicans or traditional Democrats out on the street. You just don't see them.
Right, you don't.
You had Cuomo showing up in his limo to get oysters uptown, and it's like, but I got to give these people credit. And what they're really doing that's smart is they pick candidates. The DSA only endorses candidates that have been on the ground and have been active handing things out in other races. Like you could say you lean their way, but if they haven't actually seen you there in the park with your sign, you're not getting their endorsement. And they're also from your neighborhood. So every candidate I talk to is out on, and I got to give them credit, they're out on the street campaigning. Yeah. Every single one of them lives a block away from where we actually live or where I pretended to live. Right. And that's the big thing. And they're also on buses and they're handing things. I mean, these Democrats, if they think just being nice.
Well, they've had it locked up in New York for so long.
Right. And they've lost it. Yeah. I don't see another traditional Democrat winning in this town. Ever.
But we don't know. They might have won. Cuomo might have won. For all we know,
they're not fighting for it.
No, they're not fighting for it. Well, that's what I don't understand.
You got the veteran conservative and the kind of quasi-conservative ex-liberal who are fighting harder than they are for their own elections. So what I'm saying is they're just giving the power to the socialists, and they're like what I was talking about Blumenthal today. They're placating them, and we all know that doesn't work.
Right.
What do the communists do?
No, exactly.
You take the knee.
Have they like compromised these people? Like they're
scared.
Headlights. Yeah, but maybe they've got like, what is it called? Compromat on them. Maybe they've got them in bed with boys or girls.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think DSA is.
Then why aren't they fighting? This is ridiculous. Like
because
no one's fighting.
Because I'm sorry, I'm going to say it.
What?
These all remind me of the kind of people who've never been in a fight in their life, where the guy, if you ever.
We do fight Republicans,
right? But like it's kind of like when you see, when I was in the military, there's always a college nearby, and I'd see like some freshman, and he's getting into it with some local, and then the local will pop him in the face, and he still is negotiating. I'm like, bro, he just hit you, like it's on. Right. And I see all the Democrats are doing this to the DSA. I mean, look at Lander. What a tool. Yeah. He's sitting there reciting Islamic verse as a Jew.
No, Islamic. Well, that's not.
That talks about the eliminating the Jews.
Eliminating the Jews.
The prayer that came right after him was like basically.
No, not Jews.
Israel.
No.
Yes, the prayer that came right after.
No.
And he's like,
it says Israel in the prayer. That can't be right.
I'll play it for you.
Infidels, I believe.
No. It's something about like the invaders or something like that.
Well, I mean, a lot of people are invaders.
No, you'll have to see.
Right.
But and all the Democrats, and they're still doing it. Like Dan Goldman should be a warning to them all.
Right.
And here's the worst part. On the right, we have these idiots that are like, hey, Israel. I'm like, Israel like is number 14 in lobbying. Like AIPAC is like not even in the top 50. Right. And it's like Israel is like not even the top 14 for like lobbying. So, the people on the right that think they're helping, they're just helping the Marxists, and they might be Marxists. They're just, because the whole goal, it's not about Israel. It's about taking them off the map so Russia and China can divide up the Middle East. Right now, Israel is in the way, and Israel is our entree into the Middle East, and they are our forward partners in the Middle East. That's why all the Marxists want us out. But the thing is,
but honey, there's a dual purpose, right? Because by highlighting Israel, which is not on any New Yorker's list of top 50 problems New York City has, right? It just causes division, and especially division among Christians and Jews, which are a tight voting bloc ordinarily.
Well, yeah, and don't believe the hype. Like even like our neighborhood, which is a whole mix. Like Brooklyn is like, they call it Communist Alley, I guess. Yeah, but like our area, Little Caribbean, it's like mainly work. I mean, Brooklyn's mainly working class. It's when you get towards like the Armory Drive, what is that? The big center where the Park Slope is and all that, with the big monuments.
Barclays Center?
No, it's like a
Prospect Park?
Armour Drive or something like that. But basically, that's like where all the communists are. They're centered there, and you can actually see it when you walk towards the center, towards Park Slope and the center of Brooklyn. It gets more communist on the telephone poles.
Well, it gets whiter and richer.
Right, so exactly. And so to land this plane, what I'm saying is, like, so many people in this town, they just, they don't love, hate, or, feel any way about Jewish people than they do about each other, because they've all been here for a long time. A lot of the anti-Semitism you've seen really came after October 7th and was whipped up by foreign influences.
Yeah, but these new candidates are using it as their
because they're Marxists.
I get it, but it's also a great way to really New York is a 10% Jewish city, and much of the culture and the finance and journalism is led by Jews. I mean, people say, oh, you guys run everything. Well, there are a lot of talented Jews in New York, and they, have a lot of influence. And it is a great way. It's like going to the Imperial City and going after whoever's running the Imperial City, if you want to.
But I don't even think they have that much media influence anymore.
No.
I'm going to be honest with you. Like, there's so many, like,
but you understand what I'm saying. It's like going to Washington, when
I know
the Patriots were there in the 1770s and taking out, the Patriots, or,
right.
It's going to the heart of what makes New York, New York.
Yeah. And I don't think that's why they're targeting them. I just think this is where, Chabad is centered, and Chabad, does a lot for community and fundraising. This is also where the Bank of China has 2 locations, and they're competing. But really, in New York, I think they're targeting them here. The Marxists are, because of the real estate.
Right.
Crown Heights is prime real estate, plain and simple. It's prime real estate.
Yeah.
You don't see them targeting Lower Flatbush.
No,
it's like, so, you go to Crown Heights, it's beautiful, and they've been there for generations. And our friend, who I won't say his name, but from Chabad, he walks around and everyone loves him, and he's got it all. He's got the I don't want to insult anyone, but the things. Thanks, the payas. He's I'll put it this way, he wasn't, but he doubled down, and he's very Jewish looking now, Orthodox Jewish looking. I know I'm getting to a crap here.
Everything's bad.
I'm not Jewish, but the point is, like, I said, hey, you guys ever get any crap around here? Like, no, like nothing. And
no, that's what's so heartbreaking about this, honey. We all really got along.
Everyone,
not just Jews and everyone else,
in the real
but
world,
Blacks,
everyone still does.
I know, Hispanics, white people.
Here in the real world, they still do.
Really got along.
In Brooklyn, I walk everywhere. I walked around the other day with a hat that I intentionally bought to be, to stir to stir the pot, and I believe in it too. But as a half American flag, half an Israeli flag. And then I had a custom embroidered thing put on the back that says "Don't tread on us." And I walked.
Custom embroidered.
Yeah. Wow. You can do anything. Amazon, man.
Cool.
our Chinese friends do as well. But I walked all over Brooklyn, and I do walk a lot, so I covered big parts of Brooklyn. The only people I got like fist bumps from the people.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, they like the hat, and they're like, "Oh, that's bad, man. That's cool." You know, it's like, but the only people I get like wimpy like defiance from were the Park Slope people.
Of course.
And this is what you get. This is the aggression. When they're in a mob, they'll throw bottles and set you on fire. When they're on their own, you get this. And they all have, by the way, if you want to go undercover as one of these neo-Marxists, all you need is a mail carrier bag. Everything else will fall into place.
That is true.
Gotta have the mail carrier bag.
Yeah, you do.
And so I walk by and I see this. And it couldn't have been anything else. Hilarious. Because I was doing this as I walked by. Hi. So it's like right in their face. How's it going, man? Good. And they're like,
that's really funny.
I call that the white guy half glare.
Okay, so many stereotypes in one
person. Well, I'm good, darling. I've got a grandfather from the Ivory Coast. I got a Jewish wife. I'm a disabled veteran.
You know, check all the boxes.
I'm half Irish. All American. I'm good. I'm good, man. Yeah. I'm a dog owner. Yeah.
So everyone will love you. No matter what.
Well, not everyone can hate me. I'll just put it that way.
Exactly. Baby, I have to stop you. It is time to thank TWC and to tell people this really important message. Independent journalists are reporting on energy lockdowns starting to take place in the EU and Australia, with the official narrative being that they are because of the Iran war and because of reduced oil supplies. In addition, the FBI is investigating reports of potential sleeper cells in the US, even alleged plots targeting major cities and public events. Many Americans are raising serious concerns. Could this situation escalate and begin to disrupt everyday life, especially disrupt access to basic medications? And you and I talk about that a lot too. We did during actual COVID lockdown. We had our medical kit, and now things could go crazy any minute. We've already seen how fragile supply chains can be during COVID. Oil is the backbone of everything we use and consume daily. When conflict hits, 80% of the medications that America sources from overseas can become scarce very quickly. And we found that out when I couldn't get opiates after my recent surgery. That's why being prepped with a medical emergency kit matters. The Wellness Company offers a doctor-prescribed kit with 8 core medications every American should have on hand, including antibiotics, ivermectin, and more, delivered directly to your door. It's designed to help treat common conditions such as UTIs, pneumonia, strep throat, and 25 other conditions. Are you concerned about expiration dates? Google this military study, and you'll learn something new about the scam of expiration dates. You cannot buy this at a pharmacy. Purchase your kit fully digitally. Just fill out a medical questionnaire, a licensed doctor reviews it and fills the prescription. While headlines can be confusing during times of international conflict, the most likely emergencies are often the everyday situations Americans can take for granted if they're properly prepared. So head on over to dailyclouthealth.com, dailyclouthealth.com, and use dailyclout as a code to save up to $30 off and get free shipping. Again, that's dailyclouthealth.com. Use code dailyclout to save up to $30 off and get free shipping.
I want to say that those kits are great. You don't need the end of the world to hit. We have tons of ticks upstate.
Oh yeah.
And I tell this story a lot, but it's true. We've actually used the doxycycline many times, because with the tick bite, if they do have Lyme disease, you got 48 hours before that sets in. That's
really
important.
And
in some places, so normally to get doxycycline, you'll have to say, call your doctor. Then the doctor has to prescribe it. Mm-hmm. Or if you have online medicine, you got to call them. Then they sit there and they ask you a bunch of dumb questions for an hour.
Is it a tick?
The clock is ticking. And then, no pun intended. And then you have to, in our case, you have to drive at least 30 minutes. Yeah. If it's late, the pharmacy's, that's 12 hours.
Right.
And so this happened, and Naomi got bit by a tick, and I'm like, okay. And so she got the prescription. Mm-hmm. And then I drive out to Hannaford Brothers, and their computers are down for their
Right,
pharmacy.
right. Anything.
So now she would have to go back to her doctor, call them
Right.
to get them to send it to a different place.
Mhm.
But that's another 12 hours because everyone's closed.
Yeah.
So then I thought about it. It's like, oh, wait, we have that blue kit from the wellness company. I wonder, and I'd never opened it before. So I open it up.
Yeah.
Boom. It's like a whole bottle of like 100 doxycycline
You
pills.
fed me that
Yeah.
doxycycline.
And then I went to when I took the dog to the vet because he had tons of ticks on him.
Mhm.
I said, hey, do dogs get doxycycline?
Mhm.
And they actually said, yeah, but you need a prescription from your vet. I said, I'm just asking.
Ah.
But I said, I got them to tell me how they measure it, and it's based on the poundage of the dog.
Uh-huh.
So I went home and I
God, are they going
cut
to
up
take
the
Loki
doxy.
away from us because we're
They ain't gonna take him away
self-medicating?
from me.
Okay, so
They can pry him from my dead hands. But they, I
no one's
cut
gonna
up.
pry you
I
from
cut it
anything.
up. I used one of Naomi's many diet, like newfound food energy scales that you have all over the house. She does a lot with like this Caribbean food. So she's always measuring out like different powders and all this.
Uh-huh.
And so I measured out some doxy and put the dog in a doxy regimen just in case.
And he's perfectly well.
Yeah, he grew another tail, but
Darling,
he's coming.
our time is up. We have to say goodbye.
I know, but I like your audience so much. They're not as
hostile as your audience.
Actually, my audience is only hostile to the people that are hostile to me. So I
That's nice.
love my audience.
Yeah. Well, you guys.
Hey, there's one of my audience right
Oh,
there.
that's awesome.
Donnie, aloha, boom.
She was very engaged.
She's
had a lot
great.
of great.
She's
points
great.
to make.
She makes great points, and she's a great audience member. I'm sure there's a few others on here. So,
Darling, we have to say goodbye.
all right,
Okay.
that's fine.
So if you liked this news story, which literally no one else is covering, big news story, really important. Did they win? When we tried to find out, the Board of Elections website went down for almost an hour. Did they win? Naomi Wolf asked, and Brian O'Shea asked, and Brian O'Shea brought the receipts with a blank permission slip, referral slip that could be easily Xeroxed. So much corruption. And 13 days before the election is actually certified, anything could change. Military ballots not counted, absentee ballots not counted. We don't know who won. I brought you this information. So did Brian. It takes resources to keep Daily Clout and the Daily Clout Network bringing you news and opinion you won't find anywhere else. If that matters to you, and it really should, please go over to dailyclout.io and donate or subscribe. It keeps our doors open, and we have staff who are not in front of the camera, but they make it all possible. It helps them feed their families as well and keep the wheels turning on this locomotive. And over on Substack, my Substack is Outspoken. You can donate or become a subscriber. And darling, where do people find you?
Just on X at Brian O'Shea SPI as Sierra Papa India. So Brian O'Shea SPI on X. And then also on Substack at brianocshea.substack.com.
And on Daily Clout, the network where you have Investigate Everything.
Well, of course. I thought you already said that.
No.
Yeah, my Investigate Everything. If you want to watch the show, the best way to get you there, go to dailyclout.io, scroll down, click on the show, and then click on the Rumble. We prefer you on Rumble because I can engage with you better. And follow all our shows.
Yeah, do.
Just some great ones. Really love Drew's show. Love your shows.
Thank you.
Some great
and
shows.
we are often in the top 10 or 20 or 100 in countries around the. What are you laughing at?
Every time you say this, I always think of Spinal Tap.
We're really big in Brussels.
We're really big in Europe.
We're really big in Europe, you guys. Okay, I love you all. See you next time. Thank you, Brian O'Shea, for that incredible contribution.